What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today we are checking out the brand new XV3 Scope through HHA. Now in this video we're going to talk about the new scope, we're going to talk about the design changes, we're going to talk about the benefit and what this scope is going to offer you, but we'll also kind of do like a high-level overview of the platform that this sight sits on and what platform configurations will also be available here in 2026. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the sight-in process to get this dialed in, because it is going to be slightly different when compared to their older vertical pins that they had offered with their double pin and then also their single pin. Now, starting with kind of the platform, the XV3 is going to be available in the Nytrx Pro and then also the standard Nytrx. We did full detailed videos before in the past talking about all the changes of the Nytrx, but high level overview, you are getting a longer elevation slide rail, which is giving you more adjustment range. That came out in 2025, and then also in 2025 they rolled out an independent first, second, and third access with the Nytrx platform. So if you are buying this sight brand new, those are some of the features that you can expect to receive. Now this sight is also going to be available in a pick mount, direct mount, and then also a bridge lock compatible mount. Also keep in mind that these brackets are interchangeable on the Nytrx lineup. So if you buy this sight and you decide later down the road you want to switch bow manufacturers, you're not pigeonholed into buying a brand new sight later down the road. You can just go on their accessory website and then just buy another bracket and again add that to the sight and add that to your new bow. Now what I would recommend for anyone that is new to shooting HHA is just spend the extra money and get the Pro Series, because the Pro Series is going to allow you to have interchangeable roller wheels. That just makes it very easy to get it sighted in. It also makes it very easy to swap in between different arrow configurations if you like to shoot a different arrow for 3D and hunting. And then also keep in mind your Pro Series sights are available in a Cerakote finish. If you guys purchased a Nytrx sight previously in 2025, or if you have one of their older Rise sights, this scope is going to be compatible with those. They are offering these for sale as an accessory, so you can pick these up at Sunrise Archery located out in Fenton, Michigan, or you can always order these directly through HHA off of their website. Now as far as like micro adjust elevation, this is the same thing carried over from the Nytrx. You do have a toolless micro adjust on the front for your windage, but then your elevation, you will need to use an Allen key, unlock this, and then you'll slide this scope housing up and down in order to zero the sight or figure out where your 20 is. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the sight-in process. Now, kind of shifting over and talking about the scope, obviously this is the biggest change here in 2026. The XV3 option is their first 3-pin vertical, and it is their first vertical pin sight that is giving you the ability to determine your pin gap. So now each one of these pins are micro adjustable, so you can set these up if you want to have a 20, 30, 40 yard pin gap, or if you want to have like a 20, 35, 45 yard pin gap. Like I said, you have the ability to now customize that for your preference, whereas previously, before, all of their vertical pins were fixed and they were determined based on your draw length, your draw weight, your bow speed, and then also your arrow weight. So like I said, you now have the ability to set this up exactly how you like, and I know that this has been a huge request from consumers for a long time, so I'm definitely glad to see that HHA has jumped on board with this in 2026. Now, when talking about some of the design changes that this sight received, the first thing that I noticed was the change in the mechanical rheostat. I've talked about this before in the past, but I was never a really big fan of the mechanical rheostat on the Nytrx in 2025 or the HHA Tetra Rise Max or Max Pro. And the reason that I didn't like it is because as you opened up that mechanical rheostat, you'd kind of get this overhang on your scope housing ring. And for me personally, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I'd often add like a bonus ring to the front to kind of help address the way that that sight looked at full draw. Whereas this year they did move that mechanical rheostat to the front of the sight, leaving you with a very clean scope ring. And this year it is a lot easier to use. whereas the one previously before, it was easier to kind of twist it out, but it was a couple twists to kind of either get it open or get it closed. Whereas this year it's just a turn of the mechanical rheostat, and that's going to allow you to close those fibers off or open them up so they can start to see a little bit more light. Now keep in mind that this mechanical rheostat is also constructed of aluminum, so it's not a piece of plastic like you get with other manufacturers. It also doesn't rattle. There's no rattling. The tolerances are very tight on this. And like I said, they just did an excellent job at kind of revamping this scope housing and making some of these changes. Now, you'll also see that you do have a couple additional cutouts. That's also going to help aid in pin brightness, but it also helps kind of reduce the overall weight of this scope because it is coming in a little bit heavier than the previous models before. And then lastly, you still have the ability to add their LYT light kit to this. If you purchased an LYT light kit previously before and you want to add it to your XV3 scope, you do need another bracket. So if you call HHA, they will send that out to you. From January 1st, 2026 and on, it will come with the bracket required to mount it to the new XV3 scope. So with that said, that's kind of the design changes. Just wait real quick. This sight in a pick mount is coming in at roughly 13 ounces on the dot, whereas my previous HHA Nytrx with a vertical 2-pin, also in a pick mount, was coming in at roughly about 12 ounces. So it's about an ounce heavier to go with the new XV3 scope housing. Keep in mind that this scope housing does have a larger inner diameter. So this one's coming in at 1 3/4 inches, where the other one was coming in at 1 5/8 inches. So you do have, like I said, a little bit bigger of a scope housing, but you're also going to get a little bit cleaner of a sight picture, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you to hunt with this sight, definitely in low light environment. Now next, let's kind of shift over and talk about the sight in process, because like I said, it is going to be a little bit different when compared to the HHA, their previous models. Now, a few steps have remained the same. The first one being, always make sure that your slide rail is at the top range. This is going to ensure that you're getting the most amount of clearance on your setup, and it's also going to ensure that you have that dead stop. Now, once that's at the top range, just go ahead, use that lock on the side of the sight and go ahead and lock that down to ensure that this doesn't move as you're sending multiple arrows down range, getting your 20 zeroed in. Now, in order to figure out where your 20 is, what you're going to want to do is unlock these screws right here on the mounting bracket, and then you'll move the scope housing up and down until you figure out where your 20 is. Now, once you get that, what I would do is I would just immediately go into figuring out what sight tape I have. So I would take this sight and then walk it out to 60 and then figure out exactly what sight tape I'm gonna do. And then once I get my sight tape installed, I would go back and I would sight in my second and third pin. Now, in order to sight in your second and third pin, if you look at the side of it, there are these two holes here. You're gonna have to go in there with an Allen screw and unlock those set screws, and there's individual micro adjust for each one of these pins. And then from there, you're just gonna shoot those in. Counterclockwise is going to raise the sight or raise that pin up, so you'll start to see it kind of close that gap between the middle and top pin, and then clockwise is going to bring that pin down. So if you want to set that up again at 20, 30, and 40, you just move that pin down until you're shooting precisely at 30 yards, and then go ahead, relock down that set screw, and then you go ahead and repeat the process on the bottom pin. And again, just make sure that you go and relock down those set screws, and don't over tighten those too much. You don't need to. You just want to kind of snug them down to ensure that those pins aren't going to move on you. And then once you've done that, then your sight is completely sighted in and you're ready to go. So this is definitely a sight that I'm going to spend a decent amount of time in. For reference, I went ahead and got this in a 10,000th pin. I decided to go that route this year just due to the fact that HHA offers extremely bright pins, and that you can get away with running a smaller fiber but still getting sufficient pin brightness even in low light hunting situations. So like I said, I'm going to try this one out this year. I'm going to play around with this sight. If you guys want, I could also do like an updated review video talking about just how the sight performed and my overall thoughts and opinions. But at a first glance, you know, I am super excited to test this sight out. But definitely a super sweet offering offering from HHA. Obviously, if you guys have any other questions, you can leave me a comment below. You can always reach out to me directly on Instagram. I'm always happy to help. If you guys have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Your guys' support greatly helps us out, keeps us doing what we're doing. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you guys on the next one.